Hello, welcome to the channel. It's a cozy day. Got the fire going on in the background. Someone asked me the other day about money and about what they should do with their money for the future. And I get this question a lot. So I thought I would go ahead and make a video specifically on my predictions for the coming years of the future and what's going to happen to money. Also, this microphone is never loud enough, so I'm trying to hold it closer to my face this time. And so we have chopstick. So there are some specific things that we need to talk about. I want to talk about the stock market. I want to talk about blockchain based currencies. I want to talk about systems collapse, Medicare and Medicaid, UBI, healthcare as a whole, housing, investment stuff, and I want to talk about the problem of the infinite growth paradigm. Infinite growth paradigm. There we go. I have not studied economics. This is just from my intuitive point of view and my nerdy economics information that I have, which I'm sure is not well rounded and lacks nuance in some areas. And as always, these prediction videos are for entertainment purposes only. They are not meant to be financial advice. So, what are we seeing in the current times? We are in the midst of a recession, for sure. I think we're going to be in a recession for at least until the middle of next year, which is 2026. But we're also in the midst of a greater cycle of downturn, what I've heard termed the bumpy plateau. I don't know if they usually bring this up in economics, but I've heard it talked about in other sciencey areas. The bumpy plateau looks like a period of just sort of ups and downs, various economic crises, the middle class not being able to find any gains, the stock market having incredible gains during that time, but everybody else kind of feeling like they're poor. We have been in this sort of invisible depression since about 2008. And we will continue on that path for a little while. So, what sort of happens is we have these terrible, jobs reports and, stagnation in the economy. And then we give it another try. We try again, business as usual. So we have different administrations come in and, one administration will make it worse and then another administration will make it better. And this sort of let's just try business as usual one more time. We have one more of those in us. We will have this downturn, 2025 and 26, and we will recover from it for another period of time, 2027 into 2028. And in 2028, we will no longer be able to try that again. And that is a very notable time period. It's exactly 20 years from 2008. I don't personally see the event that brings on 2028. What I do see in 2028 is lots of demonstrations for workers. So, workers starting to band together, stronger unions, workers' rights stuff. So, trying business as usual for a little bit longer in 2028, we can no longer do that and we go on with a new paradigm. So, what does the new paradigm look like? During these years of bumpy plateau, we've had increasingly consolidated corporate power. The power of business owners is way overweighed by the power of workers. We've also seen increasingly intense financial crises, increased onus on the government to print money and take care of the populace. And we've started to see multiple systems collapse. And it's not in the way where like one sector is unhealthy. It's kind of like the whole thing is unhealthy. And it is founded on ideas that were originally good or worked. And they no longer work anymore because of technology. So we're going to see multiple systems collapse over 30 years or so, from 2020 to 2050, there is a complete reformation in like all areas of life. This is a huge change, similar to the change that happened between like 1940 and 1960s. Huge like nuclear age, big energy change, shift, revolution. This multiple systems collapse was always going to happen. It is not our fault. It is as a result of us integrating technology into our lives. So I want you to always remember that the technology that comes in, it always must be integrated. We're in a little bit of a dark time right now when it comes to computing technology because humanity hasn't figured out yet how to make this handheld computer device not so addicting. So we're in the like cocaine, Coca-Cola age of like phone addiction. And that's really difficult. Eventually, that technology will get integrated in better, and we will not be suffering so much from our technology. Um, AI technology will continue to be a part of our lives, will continue to be integrated. It is never going to be an answer to not bring in the new technology. If you would have talked to the people who used to work on ponds that were frozen over and would slough off the ice and then ship the ice around the world, they were really upset when refrigeration technology came in and we were just able to make ice in our own freezers. It was not the answer to try to preserve jobs by not having the new technology. So, as you're seeing these multiple systems collapse, I want you to remember that they are as a result of money being very different when these rules were written in, and money behaving very differently today, partly because money is so digitized and partly because it is separated from the gold standard. I don't think that we are going back to a gold standard. I think that we are going to money being increasingly fiat, even more than it is now. So let's go into talking about blockchain technologies. Uh, the vision that I see is the US will create a centralized currency. There are already like whispers of this when you look in your Coinbase account. It says USDC. Like there's a version of this already. Um, it becoming more centralized and more baked in to our lives. Spirit is saying that this is being tested in other places first. So look to what other countries are doing. I think that we will get this between 2030 and 2035. Um, as a result of that blockchain technology being brought in, um, it seems like the other blockchain currencies are either going to become defunct or they're going to be seen in a different light, maybe more like stock market investments. They don't seem like they hold currency value anymore, or they just become kind of irrelevant when centralized government currency comes in. Maybe there are more regulations against them, not quite clear. But the centralized currency is going to have positives and negatives. One of the positives is that it is going to be absolutely the first step to going to UBI. And UBI, again, 2035, I think, a little bit later out than the implementation of the centralized currency. It seems to me that the government is already planning this. Like they are already projecting out 10 years to doing this. I think that they are waiting to see how much the AI revolution really removes employment. With UBI, I see that everyone is going to get it. It's going to be a payment that everyone gets. And because of UBI, we are not going to have so many bullshit jobs. We are not going to hear on the news people touting that they created jobs. I've always thought that was a really stupid phrase because it's essentially bragging. You're like, we're paying people to dig holes and fill them back in. Like creating jobs, it almost sounds like creating content, which is what I do. I always thought that was silly too. Why would you create a job if you didn't really need it? And this is part of our financial crisis that's really happening globally, people not having enough jobs. And if you look at Europe, there's a lot of unemployment. And part of that is because they have better social safety nets. And if we had a good social safety net, our unemployment would be higher as well. Um, Spirit is reminding me that this unemployment thing is part of technology actually needing to improve. And they're reminding me of how jobs always, not necessarily employment, but like things to do, tasks always come out of us being able to do more complex things without human labor. So we always do find new activities to do to extract value, to have economic activity, and we don't have to invent them. They're truly jobs that wouldn't have existed without AI. And a lot of those things, we have about 10 years of technological advancement that needs to happen before those more complex jobs can be created. So it's like a weird stagnation time. But eventually, you will have AI doing the things that AI is good at, and humans doing the things that humans are good at. And we won't have such a need to like fill the holes in unemployment with just stupid shit for people to do. Part of the employment thing, too, is to give something people to do because people are sort of like communally bankrupt and spiritually bankrupt. Like they don't have community centeredness in their life, and um, a lot of what was given to them to like replace that was like, oh, just go to work more, just be a consumer. So there's also an ideological gap there where we need to figure out what people can do with themselves because honestly, we see now what happens when you leave people home is they start to realize how disenfranchised they are, and it creates a revolution. And it absolutely will be part of this revolution that we're going through now. Again, kind of ending around 2050. As far as systems collapse, the major systems that we're seeing change in are healthcare, education, employment or like workers' rights, government, and economy. The first one that's going to sort of collapse is healthcare, and we can already see the horizon of that. The insurance market is breaking down. I don't understand fully why this is happening, but it's also happening in cars. The ability to insure a car is becoming too expensive. Same thing with health insurance. A lot of people are not going to buy their health insurance because it's been too expensive. It's been like this for 20 years. The Affordable Care Act was like a little band aid that kind of got us through. Now that that band aid is, for the most part, being taken off, now we will feel the full brunt of the way that the system isn't working. And I want you to remember, like, these systems need to break down in order for change to happen. And one of the biggest problems that we have is healthcare. So the sooner that it can break down, the sooner that we can sort of come to Jesus about this. And there will be more uproar from the populace to make the lawmakers change it. The lawmakers are very responsive to public outcry. And I can't remember exactly what Obama said one time. He said something like, and he was quoting Eleanor Roosevelt when they asked him if he was going to make healthcare happen. And he said something to the effect of, "Are you going to make me do it?" Which he meant, is there going to be enough public outcry, enough energy behind this to get me to be able to convince the other lawmakers that I need to convince to put pressure? And that pressure will be there, and it will be showing itself by 2028. We will have universal health care in individual states first. I think Oregon is going to be one of the first ones. I think that Vermont, Massachusetts, Washington State, some of the early blue states, Spirit had said previously, look to the states who had medical marijuana first. And then universal healthcare nationwide, I think by 2032, maybe 2035. The timeline on that is a little bit changeable, possibly. Once we have universal healthcare, that is really going to grease the wheels towards UBI. It's going to get a lot of people on board for it. Education system, that seems like a longer road into the 2040s. Again, integrating the AI technology in somehow. A lot of people ask about Medicare and Medicaid. Obviously, those are not going to be so important once we get nationalized healthcare. But I see for the most part, um, something is done to like save Social Security in the early 2030s. There's like, it looks like it's going to run out, and they do something to like refund it. But then it kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant because of the UBI thing. For this period of bumpy plateau, we're going to be responding to the situation day by day. So the best thing to do when you're in a storm is to not try to make long-term plans because you have no idea what the storm is going to knock out. So if you're looking at how to plan your money during this bumpy plateau time, uh, my suggestion to you is to keep more liquid cash, to keep money out of investments for the most part. If your money is in your house, I think that's safe. Real estate has always been traditionally a good investment choice. So that would be my advice is to keep your money in investments of real estate, and for the most part, kind of stay out of the stock market, stay out of the bond market. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up about this is we are going through a long-term downturn, and this writing was on the wall when we became the world's reserve currency at Bretton Woods in the 1940s. So it was our turn to be the special lady at the ball, the country that was going to be the world's reserve currency. This happens to different superpowers over time. It happened to the Dutch and the English, and what was the other one that I saw the other day? The Portuguese. So it always happens the same way when you are the world's reserve currency, the favored currency to trade in. Uh, your country ends up not producing as many goods. So they run a trade deficit. We start to import more than we export because we're very rich. Every country wants our bonds, wants to have our currency in reserve. So the other thing is that's cool is we can pay our international debt with money that we print. But over time, we get addicted to this, and we're not making any money anymore because we're not exporting any goods. So over a very long period of time, we start to run huger and huger deficits. We have more and more debt. And this has happened every single time to every single country, almost in the same amount of time. It's like 200 years, 150 years, 200 years. So we're going through that cycle. We will absolutely be going down financially. We will not be the world's richest country anymore. We will still be like top 5 or 6, same way England is still top 5 or 6. I don't know where the Dutch are anymore. They decided to go into socialism land, which good for them. Um, China will be a major world power. Really interesting the way that white supremacy kind of has changed. So, like going way back into the 1400s, you had the Portuguese, and then probably back then there wasn't as much of a distinction as there is today, like who's considered white and who's not. But during the heaviest periods of white supremacy, probably like 1500s on, you have mostly white countries holding that designation. I think China is going to be the next one to hold that designation of the world's reserve currency, but we'll have to see if white supremacy wants to allow that. So I think it's helpful to know overall, the US will decline financially. Our economy will decline, and there will be some sort of crisis moment where we cannot pay our debts. And that'll be a strange period. I don't think we will cease to be the US. I'm not sure what will be the catalyst for it, but just be aware like, we're not going to be the world superpower anymore, which will be great because it will mean that we don't have to have such a huge global military to protect trade routes, to bring freedom all around the world. We're not going to be such a militarized nation anymore. Wanted to speak about the stock market just briefly. I don't think the stock market's going anywhere. I think that certain things are going to be regulated. So we're going to see housing brought out of investment land. So I think there's going to be some measures made to make housing not be such an investment vehicle, It's one of the reasons that housing supply is so low because you have a juggernaut of boomers and people who have owned houses who want to keep those investments at a high amount. And that is such a um, backwards thing if you want to take care of your people in the same way that healthcare has become an investment in certain ways. Like you can invest in healthcare on the stock market. We're going to be seeing as like it's really important to take care of people, and in order to take care of people, housing needs to be more of a public good in the way that food is. So we wouldn't allow like apples to become an investment, for example. We would see that as abusive to people. So we're going to take housing out of investment products somehow, and maybe sort of a complicated way. Also, I think that there's going to be more Dodd-Frank like legislation to break up large monopolies and keep investments and banks. There's going to be a huge uproar in fintech, in these unregulated apps that try to be banks. There's a lot of shady shit going on there that will hurt people if we ever have run on the banks. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to happen, but there's going to be like fallouts there, and I see more bank failures of smaller banks. um Also wanted to talk about tax law. It feels like tax law is simplified. We're going more towards the way that Australia does it. This will be in combination with the centralized blockchain currency. I think that the simplification of taxes will happen after that, but it'll be close by, and it'll be more like, yeah, we're just going to take the money we know you owe us, and it may be uh, immediate. It may not be something that you have to pay at the end of the year. Like it may just be taken out whenever they want. So in a lot of ways, we're going to be more controlled. We're going to have less ability to like hang on to our money, but there's a lot of crazy ways that our money operates that will be more simple for us. So that'll be nice. Again, gives and takes. The central government may be able to take your money really easily, but you're also going to have UBI, so that's nice. And you're going to have healthcare. That's one of the things that I want you to remind you about too, if you're someone who's really worried about your investments during this time. We are in one of the worst periods of like, you're on your own. Good luck taking care of yourself. Um, we have very little social safety nets and very little local community, and we feel really exposed. And so we look at, how can I invest in the stock market? How can I um, win the slot machine of financial life? And once the social safety net gets put in place, we will not have to worry so much about that. So you may be worried now that you're going to sort of lose your money or lose your investments. Just know that safety net is going to be there to take care of you. So you will be taken care of health wise. You will have housing. I see tons of homeless being brought out of that experience, brought into housing, just like nobody being unhoused anymore, which is beautiful. But yeah, if you're worried just about protecting your investments, the only people who need to worry are the super rich. They are going to be the ones with, who get burned at the stake during this period of uproar, and not burned at the stake literally. I just mean that they are going to be on the chopping block attitude wise by the general populace. So tax law being simplified, paying your taxes being simplified. Then I just wanted to talk about the infinite growth problem. This is a problem that's happening worldwide. This is one of the problems with money, is our money behaves like it is infinitely available, but resources are not. Again, digital money is a technology, and we have to square it with the physical world. I don't think that technology is going to be finding some way to take a physical object and tie it to money. I think, again, money is going to be even more freed from the physical world. So there is something, it feels like a degrowth approach. And it seems like there's a lot of theorists working on this right now. How do we organize uh, the human emotional psychological system to work within a degrowth paradigm. Because one of the things is like humans always want expansion and they always want growth. How do we make it so it's not necessarily financial growth, it's growth in some other aspect? And we've seen lots of humans be able to do this. One of the ways that you go on a healing path is you make your growth being willing to hurt, willing to go to discomfort. And so your growth becomes tied to like things being difficult in a way. And so it probably will look something like this, people being able to find expansion in some other measure that's not necessarily expansion in their money. And I see a lot less just journeying towards like gathering massive amounts of wealth. And I think that there's a lot of effort to like make that a really shitty, like there's very little payoff in that. Maybe it's like, oh, once you have this certain amount of money, things are like way more expensive for you or something. Similar the way that tax structure works. But I think that there's going to be some major change that makes that part of the game not very fun anymore. But this infinite growth problem is a worldwide problem. Uh, it does seem like you're still going to have regional currencies, so you're not going to have like a worldwide currency. The reason for that is because nations need to be able to control like their inflation and their like levers of the financial markets locally. So it doesn't really work to have like the euro has been brought up a lot. It doesn't really work to have a currency between 14 countries because you have one country that needs one thing and another that needs something else. So I think we're still going to see currencies for different countries. But we're going to get a handle on this infinite growth paradigm. And it's going to be in the same period of time that we are starting to make some gains with climate change. Importantly, we think that we go over the deep end. So between 2028 and 2032, we will think that we are past the point of no return. And then we're able to come back from it. I see us being able to recover from climate change, combination of technologies that come in, carbon capture, but also like massive divestment from coal. The biggest problem with fossil fuels is not powering our vehicles, it is plastics and the materials that are made out of oil. And that's one of the biggest problems that needs to be solved right now. And a lot of consumer sentiment is doing this, really starting now, but intensifying more and more over the years. There's going to be more like people being judgy about others using plastic. If things are made out of plastic, people are going to start to avoid them. You're going to see more alternatives. What's an example of a product that has done this that we've seen completely change? Artificial dyes is one of them where consumer sentiment sort of drives the change. So we're going to see a lot of that with plastic. And definitely by 2050, we're going to be using almost no plastic. And I also see some sort of amalgam material being created that's very much like plastic that has something to do with algae. So maybe we have like a seaweed or something that we can produce this with. Also, I see major changes in the recycling system. Our recycling codes and our recycling like dogma, it seems like it was created by industry to shift the sentiment away from them, from manufacturing, and onto the consumer. So there's going to be like major reform there, and it brought into line with like, what are we actually recycling? Not much. And it's just a way that we feel better about ourselves. But I think a lot more of the onus is going to be shifted onto companies. One of the things that I like to share with people when they talk to me about what they should do for the future with their money, a lot of people are taking their exit right now. A lot of people are dying. There are people dropping like flies because we're in such a paradigm shift. The people who came for the old paradigm, they are dropping out. So if you live through this period, it was absolutely part of your life plan to be here during this period to help with the transition. If you're around my age, you were born in the early 90s or late 80s, you were meant to be like of working age when we were going through this. You were very much meant to help when you were in your working years. If you are an elder, if you are someone who is looking to retire, then you are meant to be more of an elder during those periods, not actively working, but acting as a resource for others. So just think about that. Like, what is the timing of your life? Does it seem like you're going to hang on for another 30 years? Well, if so, you were absolutely meant to be here for the 30 years of the transition. For those of us who are around millennial age, there's a big group of us. We're going to be hitting retirement age by the time we get all the stuff we need. So there's like major healthcare advances, blockchain technology being used, another system, government. I think that blockchain technology is going to be used in voting and voting systems. And there's going to be like structural change with government as well. But just remember that like 2020 to 2050, that is the revolution. That is the period of the revolution. Major systems change and major um, societal perspective change. So our generation, like we don't want to have kids. We can't imagine. A lot of us can't imagine like having enough money to have kids, kind of a thing. But like, can't imagine bringing life into this dumpster fire where it looks like the world is ending, kind of a thing. The children who grow up, and are living in the 2040s and 2050s, they won't feel this way. They're going to feel a lot of hope. They're going to feel excited. They're going to be looking to the future. They're going to be interested in having kids. This is only a momentary time. It's probably similar to like Great Depression, how people who lived then couldn't imagine a better life. But we do the work now to make a better world for the people who are coming in the future. And they feel very differently. They have more hope. They want to have kids. And good for them. Wish I was them. I get to be here to help with this transition. But yeah, I hope that helps you feel better about your money in the future. Don't worry about protecting your money so much. Keep it in safekeeping and know that a lot of changes are coming and that we're going to be okay.